premiere of second First Words in Dalston. And it features 4 short sound pieces, which will then be followed by a Q&A. And we'll aim to be finished by 7:30. Mike and I launched First Words in Dalston during lockdown, and in 2020, which feels an age ago. And it was a way for people to kind of connect with the local area, to connect with the library, which is just the other side of all this hoarding, and to kind of connect with each other through words and books. And we posed the idea to Hackney Council. Hackney Council put us in touch with Gisela, who were doing all of this work on these buildings, and they gave us the space on their hoardings, which was brilliant, and a little bit of money as well, which was great. So we splashed out on a really expensive speaker system. In fact, we just pissed it all on the speaker system, to be honest. What else I want to say? So the art, as you probably know, hopefully you've contributed, it's made up of the first sentence of a book of your choice. The idea was that it would be a book in the library, but the library was closed. So they've been painted onto the hoarding, and then also those of you who have recorded them, we've made a sound installation that plays here at specific times. We have also now given those recordings to our artists, who I will tell you about in a moment, and for tonight they have reinterpreted them and made some beautiful pieces of sound art. We'd also like to thank Darren Milne, who is the manager of this building site. Basically, he's been really super helpful. Keir Vine, I don't know if Keir is here. He's a sound artist, and he's helped us a lot. And Hackney Council, who has supported us massively. None of them are here, but never mind. What else? Reading this now. It was always our intention that this should be an ongoing project. So, and it is actually going to go on until 2022, when the hoarding will come down. And so there'll be other projects happening. We don't know what, but will be invented. So we've asked 4 artists to perform for us tonight. So the first is Duncan. Here's Duncan. Duncan is a composer and sound artist who regularly works with leading music organisations throughout the world. Oh God, I've got to read some names now. Casa da Musica, Porto, London Chamber Orchestra, Royal Opera House, Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, and he's performed at festivals in the UK, Europe and Australia. That sounds so interesting. Fiona, where's Fiona? Fiona's videoing as well. So
I was asked to.
She's multitasking now. Fiona's a London-based multimedia artist. She's a fellow Kentish Town person. She lives near me, which is great. Working primarily in collage, sculpture and film. And it took lockdown for her to integrate her musical interests, singing in the community choir and playing the ukulele. I didn't know that about you until tonight.
There's no ukulele tonight, by the way.
No ukulele tonight, or in your piece. Into her artistic practice. You are amazing, Fiona. She has, somewhat surprisingly, found herself inspired to create poetry and spoken word pieces, and her 2 pieces, which are the ones in the middle tonight, use a constraints-based method of writing. Oh, we've got babies. This is amazing. This is my cousin's husband. I'm Italian, and we bumped into each other here a few weeks ago. And I never see them in Italy, but I saw them here, and here they are tonight. And the final artists are Ian Pressland and Hilary Sturt, with a mystery performer. You'll hear who the mystery performer is. Ian, am I right? You studied at Trinity College of Music, like this is your life, London, where you won the sonata.
Oh, don't go through all that.
No,
I
okay.
played the cello.
No, alright, so you what? You have been a member, a director, or a manager of
Various
BBC
things.
Concert Orchestra, Razumovsky String Quartet, National Association for Young Chamber Music, London Festival Orchestra, and London Chamber Orchestra. Hilary Sturt graduated from.
I think we leave all of that out. I'll tell you how it is.
No, I have to ask you because you also are a member of the Razumovsky Quartet, and I wondered if that's where you met.
No, I had to audition.
Oh, sorry.
He auditioned for it.
I wouldn't have let her in, but the others did.
So there you go. All right, I will skip all of that, but the list is amazing, absolutely amazing. So as you see, we've got actual instruments here. So Ian and Hillary's piece is part recorded, but also they're going to partly improvise, which I think will be amazing too. And now, where do we go? Are we at the end? We're at the end. Cue. Yes. Hello. Yes. Cue the start of first words in Dalston.
Shh. Shh. Shh.
They talked about it afterward, at the end of summer, after the summer flowers had left.
In the olden days, when wishing still worked, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful.
For some, the nagging urge to flee your place of birth is an absolute.
It is a remarkable paradox that, at the pinnacle of human material and technical achievement, driven to consume and with little or no community life.
124 was spiteful.
The boys, as they talked to the girls from Marcia Blaine's school, stood on the far side of their bicycles holding the handlebars, which established a
Dalston's Peak, a mile above the storm-racked North-East Sea, is a land famous for wizards.
If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it.
Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself.
It is freezing. An extraordinary -18 degrees. Crystals falling in stacks and covering the ground with a layer of pulverized white frost. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist.
community life.
It's also Melanie just going down my face.
boys stood, which
Also,
protective fence of bicycle between the sexes,
And always reminded him of the fate
to be away.
Pleasure. Nobody knows about this.
The sea is a land famous for wisdom.
Time. The moment of how life on Earth began.
The first
In the
my died and all before they had me, and all that.
Someone is ever investigated, so it's a good
Going into it.
What is by the flowers has
Porch or ice. Next door. Degrees Celsius, and it's snowing.
Night made mischief of one, candid another. His mother
Almost wait. Around with the layer
without eating anything.
They came, and I did not speak out because I was not as loaded.
I name you 3.
She was made.
Shall become light
Chorus and grows to an adrenaline.
They are driving out for guys.
In the morning.
Stimulants.
Good calligraphy. One of the things
Is how death must feel.
self.
You see,
She was interrupted.
of the wrong
See,
Sunday.
Dear Teresa, I'm lying on my bed.
Cat seems to be thrown into relief by poor
On my
dress.
face.
Sarah.
It took me.
and the clock.
Asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence.
Spent listening to the sound of striving.
It's always remind.
80. I was in bed.
Nobody knows.
9.
Humans are
Father died.
Versailles element of how that word to become something set as they know it.
The first time I come
There was one time we did
Night.
Next north. Despite putting it.
If you want, there was nothing. All that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I
Stating from the post in the language that is no longer mine. In the olden days, socialist, a young grounded, I was not a socialist.
It was the sun.
He was supposed to.
For some, the nagging urge to
The child in a gentle paradox. Frenzy. Nelson. Prone to depression.
The first time they talked about it, two daughters, the nagging urge to flee, with a little or no community life. Today was very chilly. Silver-winged sparrows gliding over a perfumed ocean, spiteful as they talked, a mile above the storm-racked northeast sea. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know, said she, in the language that is no longer mine, and I did not speak it. At first sight, she was made of flesh and blood, adrenaline-fueled. It's 8:30 in the morning. In her delicate calligraphy, you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself. Before she could say anything, he should have seen my eyes all swollen, hot tears. The day my father took me to the cemetery of forgotten books. It is the truth. I have never dared to confide in anyone. I waited for justice. Without warning, and for no apparent reason, Mother died today, lying on the rug with that axe, 7 minutes after midnight. The fate of unrequited love, a pleasure to burn, the underland nobody knows, somewhat meaningless existence. This is the first murder. The papers on the porch are icy with the news. A wizard called Very Young had just begun. His mother called him Wild Things. First, there was the hour dedicated to the ceremony. This is the story, outmoded and unrequired. The door to the latchkey. The cold passed reluctantly from the earth and killed. The spirit shall become a camel, and the camel a lion, and the lion at last a child. When they see her, the transformation is how death must feel. A case of the wrong victim, in the wrong place, on the wrong Sunday. The kind of beauty which is thrown into the heart. I was 10 years old. The clocks were striking 13. Last night I dreamt of my childhood, listening to the sound of striving. I was in bed with my love in the year 1632, and I want to go home. I have no reason not to. I planned my death carefully, unlike my life. All children except one grow up in a place whose name I do not care to remember.
Shh, shh, shh. I still remember the scent of bitter almonds, the tears running down, weightless crystals falling in stacks, the sort of cold that seemed to creep. I still remember a gentle chorus, lucid dreaming, bright stars dazzle the world, hot as hell, bubbling with teenage angst. I still remember the nagging urge to flee, a bright cold day, a silver-winged sparrow gliding over perfumed ocean, a mile above the storm-racked northeast sea. I still remember the cemetery of forgotten books, her delicate calligraphy, so lovely, even the sun was struck with wonder, in the language that is no longer mine. I I still remember retiring fogs, pulverised white frost. The cold passed reluctantly from the earth. There was room to breathe again. I still remember the first decade of the third millennium. The clocks were striking 13. Before she could say anything, the moon blew up. Should have seen it coming. I still remember your place of birth, the majestic magnolias, a protective fence of bicycles, resting, and I want to go home. I still remember when wishing still worked, missing you. It is freezing, flowers, in a place I do not care to remember. I still remember. I still remember. I remember. Still I remember. You. Missing. You.
Shh. 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 The first time his father died, he was 5. The first time his father died, he was 5. The first time his father died, his father was 5. The first time his father died, the first time his father died, the first time his father died, he was first time.
They talked about it afterward, at the end of summer, after the summer folks had left, and there was room to breathe again on the island. They talked about it afterward, at the end of summer, after the summer folks had left, and there was room to breathe again on the island.
124 was spiteful. 124 was spiteful. 124 was spiteful. 124 was spiteful. 124 was spiteful.
At any moment, the boys were likely to be away. At any moment, the boys were likely to be away. At any moment, the boys were likely to be away. At any moment, the boys were likely to be away. At any moment, the boys were likely to be away.
If you really want to hear about it, 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 if you really want to hear about it.
Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself.
It is freezing, an extraordinary -18 degrees Celsius, and it's snowing, and in the language that is no longer mine, the snow is canic, big, almost weightless, crystals falling in stacks and covering the ground with a layer of pulverised white frost. It is freezing, an extraordinary -18 degrees Celsius, and it's snowing, and in the language that is no longer mine, the snow is canic, big, almost weightless, crystals falling in stacks and covering the ground with a layer of pulverised white frost.
One of the things that happens when you get older is that you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself. One of the things that happens when you get older is that you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself. One of the things that happens when you get older is that you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself. One of the things that happens when you get older is that you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself. One of the things that happens when you get older is that you discover lots of new ways to hurt yourself.
It was a pleasure to burn. 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 It was a pleasure to burn.
It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to burn.
There was once a wizard called Very Young. 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 There was once a wizard called Very Young.
His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up.
I was born in the year 1632 in the city of York, of a good family. I was born in the year 1632 in the city of York, of a good family. I was born in the year 1632 in the city of York, of a good family. I was born in the year 1632 in the city of York, of a good family. I was born in the year 1632 in the city of York, of a good family.